Week 3 on Zepbound is officially in the books, and apparently Sanity has entered the chat. After losing 7 pounds in week 1 and another 11 pounds in week 2, this week the scale finally went the opposite direction. I started the week at 332 pounds and ended at 335, so I actually gained 3 pounds over the week. Now, obviously, I'd love to see another huge loss, but the first 2 weeks were probably included a lot of water weight. I knew that the numbers weren't going to continue like that forever. My real goal in this whole thing is to eventually settle into 1 to 2 pounds per week of loss, something that's sustainable. So week 3 gave me a little bit of a reality check, but the scale is only part of what I'm tracking, so here's exactly what happened during my 3rd week on 2.5 milligrams of Zepbound.
Here's the big picture for week 3. I stayed on the 2.5 milligram starting dose, and this was my 3rd injection. For the week, I gained 3 pounds, putting me at 335 pounds. But I started this journey at 350, so even with the gain this week, I'm still down 15 pounds overall. My calories averaged 2,182 per day. Protein averaged 179 grams, and my water intake was around 120 to 160 ounces per day. And yeah, after losing 7 pounds in week 1 and another 11 in week 2, seeing the scale go up definitely wasn't the number I wanted, but this is where Sanity has entered the chat. Those huge early losses were exciting, but they probably included a lot of water weight, and I know I can't expect numbers like that every week. My real goal is to eventually settle into something closer to a healthy, sustainable 1 to 2 pounds per week. So I'm not looking at this 3-pound gain and deciding something went wrong. So now let's break down week 3 and look at what actually happened. Starting week 3, there was still an estimated 1.28 milligrams of Tirzepatide remaining in my system from the end of week 2 before I took my 3rd 2.5 milligram injection. After shot 3, my estimated level for day 1 was 1.92 milligrams. And this is where the tracking starts getting even more interesting to me, because now I have multiple weeks of estimated medication levels that I can compare against how I was actually feeling. On day 1, my food noise was 0 out of 10, meaning it was there just not too noticeable, and appetite suppression was only 1 out of 10. I also had physical therapy that day. Digestively, my first bowel movement of the day was solid, but after I got home from physical therapy, things had softened to more of a clay-like consistency. Moving into day 2, my estimated Tirzepatide level climbed from 1.92 milligrams to 3.02 milligrams, which was the highest estimated level of week 3. Symptom-wise, this was actually a pretty easy day. The only thing I recorded was belching at 1 out of 10, and after the digestive issues I'd been dealing with, I also noted that things were finally solid again. So even though this was the highest estimated medication level of the week, I really wasn't dealing with much in the way of side effects, and that's exactly why I'm tracking these two things together. The estimated medication level gives me the general curve, but how I actually feel from day to day doesn't always match that curve perfectly. By day 3, my estimated Tirzepatide level had started coming back down slightly, dropping from 3.02 milligrams to 2.90 milligrams. This was also the first day this week where the digestive issues really started showing back up. I had diarrhea at 2 out of 10, which started in the morning, but thankfully stopped around midday. I also had belching at 1 out of 10, with some minor, infrequent sulfur burps throughout the day. So once again, the estimated medication level and the side effects don't line up in a simple way. Day 2 was actually the highest estimated level of the week at 3.02 milligrams, and I barely had any symptoms. Then on day 3, as the estimated levels started coming down, the diarrhea returned. It's almost like the higher it is, the happier my system is, but when it drops, I start seeing more issues. Moving into day 4, my estimated Tirzepatide level continued coming down, dropping from 2.90 milligrams to 2.57 milligrams. The diarrhea was still there, but it was pretty mild at only 1 out of 10. It actually started out as diarrhea earlier in the day, but gradually hardened up as the day went on, and by nighttime, things were considerably better. This was also another physical therapy day, so compared with day 3, the digestive issues seemed to be moving in the right direction again. And looking at the graph, my estimated medication level was continuing its gradual decline after reaching that 3.02 milligram peak on day 2. Moving into day 5, my estimated Tirzepatide level continued coming down, dropping from 2.57 milligrams to 2.05 milligrams. And this ended up being a pretty uneventful day, which for tracking purposes is actually useful information. I recorded no side effects at all, and I didn't have any additional notes for the day. That's important because when you see a blank day in my tracking, it doesn't mean I forgot to enter the symptoms. If something feels wrong, I'm pretty diligent about recording it, so a blank day means nothing was bothering me enough to report. Looking back at the first 5 days, we're already seeing why I wanted to track this day by day. The estimated medication level peaked on day 2, digestive symptoms showed up on days 3 and 4 as that level was coming down, and now at 2.05 milligrams, I had a day with no reported side effects. Moving into day 6, my estimated Tirzepatide level continued coming down, dropping from 2.05 milligrams to 1.71 milligrams. Food noise was around 2 out of 10, and appetite suppression was also around 2 out of 10. And this is where I added something new to the tracking. I started experimenting with a fasting schedule. My initial goal was to get to at least a 12-hour fast and then gradually build from there, depending on how my body reacts, how hungry I feel, and how the appetite suppression from Zepbound fits into it. On this first tracked attempt, I actually made it 13 hours and 16 minutes, so from this point forward, fasting time becomes another number I can track alongside the estimated medication level, food noise, appetite, calories, protein, and side effects. I'm not trying to draw any conclusions from one day, I just want to keep collecting the data and see whether any repeatable patterns start to show up over time. Finishing out week 3 with day 7, my estimated Tirzepatide level dropped from 1.71 milligrams to 1.54 milligrams. My food noise was actually 0 out of 10, with just a little heartburn and belching, both at 1 out of 10. I also continued the fasting experiment I started the day before. After fasting for 13 hours and 16 minutes on day 6, I went 13 hours and 8 minutes on day 7. The fast itself went pretty well. Around hour 2, I did notice some food cravings, but they weren't bad, and I was able to continue. And with day 7 complete, we can finally see the full medication curve for week 3. I came into the week with an estimated 1.28 milligrams carrying over from week 2. After my third 2.5 milligram shot, I was at 1.92 milligrams on day 1, peaked at 3.02 milligrams on day 2, and then gradually came down to 1.54 milligrams by day 7. And once again, the reason I'm tracking all of this isn't because I think these estimated medication levels can tell me exactly how I'm going to feel. It's actually the opposite. I want to put the estimated levels next to what I really experienced, food noise, appetite suppression, side effects, and now fasting, and see if patterns start emerging over multiple weeks. And week 3 gave me another important reminder about why I'm doing that, because while some of these numbers were looking pretty good, the scale decided to tell a very different story. So that brings us to the end of week 3 on Zepbound at 2.5 milligrams, and this week definitely looked different than the first 2. The scale went up 3 pounds this week, which puts me at 15 pounds down overall since starting. And while seeing 7 pounds come off in week 1 and another 11 pounds in week 2 was definitely exciting, I never expected numbers like that to continue every single week. My goal going into this has always been about making steady progress over time, and that's really what week 3 reminded me of, because even though the scale went up, I didn't stop doing the things I've been doing. I averaged 2,247 calories per day, 176 grams of protein, and stayed around 120 to 160 ounces of water per day. Digestively, things were also much better overall. I still had some minor diarrhea, belching, and heartburn during the week, but nothing like some of what I dealt with earlier in this journey. And this week I added something completely new to the experiment, fasting. I'm starting with a goal of at least 12 hours and gradually building from there based on how I feel. My first 2 tracked fasts actually went beyond that, 13 hours and 16 minutes on day 6 and 13 hours and 8 minutes on day 7. I'm interested to see how that fits alongside Zepbound, my appetite, food noise, and everything else I'm already tracking, but probably my biggest takeaway from week 3 is simple. 1 week doesn't define the journey. The scale can go down, it can go up, but I'm still 15 pounds lighter than when I started, and I'm going to keep tracking what happens instead of letting one number change the plan. Next week is also going to be an interesting one because this journey keeps evolving, and I'll be right back here to show you exactly what happens. And if you made it this far, be sure to give the video a like and follow along so you can keep up with my progress each week. And let me know down in the comments what you think about week 3. I'll see you next week.